All right, welcome back. You know, if you've been following my content for the last 9 months, you'd pretty much know that I've embarked on what appears to be a hopeless mission to explain what I think might be the biggest video game bug of all time. That settings in Rocket League influence how the car handles and responds in game. The idea itself isn't revolutionary. Everyone knows that settings matter. Change your controller dead zone from 0.5 to 1 and the car will immediately feel different. Same thing with countless other games. Apex has plenty of unique settings that affect how the analog stick responds when aiming, and nearly every game implements some sort of dead zone or sensitivity slider that changes each player's experience. These options are supposed to let players tune how things feel, but what I'm describing isn't something you can tweak with a slider or even control at all. There seems to be something fundamentally wrong with how the key bindings work here in control settings. The game appears to create an input array to store which functions have been bound, and the order in which those buttons are assigned gets evaluated every frame, subtly reshaping how the car feels and responds. Different binding orders of the same control can create two cars that look identical on paper, but feel completely different in practice. An example of this can be felt when players create an alternate account. There have been years and years of reports on Reddit and other forums of players who have matched their settings one for one and report that the car controls differently. Even though these players' control settings are identical, the order in which key bindings were bound and assigned to the input array was likely not. The differences are measured in fractions of a millisecond, but if Rocket League is truly a game built on precision, even those tiny timing differences can snowball into noticeable changes in responsiveness. If players continue to rebind functions, the game appears to be layering this information into the input array and continuously changing how the overall car controls and responds one button at a time. The exact role of each binding is still unclear, but what matters is that the process itself seems to introduce variability that players can feel, even when everything else appears identical. I've been 100% honest about the fact that I have no experience with game development or coding in general, but I've tried my best to understand and prove this idea myself. I've checked analog values, I've used TAS, and I've even installed MirrorBot, but nothing seems to legitimize my claims. The impact of this being true is bigger than it seems. If something as simple as the order you bind buttons can change how your analog stick interacts with the game, then it means some players are unknowingly controlling the game under completely different conditions, undermining the fairness and integrity of competitive and casual play. I started talking about this at the beginning of 2025, but this idea comes from nearly a decade of muscle memory that I've built with this game. Developers I've spoken to say it shouldn't be possible, yet players have reported issues with car controls for years, and the heavy car bug still remains one of gaming's biggest mysteries. I definitely don't have all the answers, and this video is really nothing more than just a wild guess, but exploring this topic could reveal unexpected insights about input, physics, and even muscle memory in Rocket League. For now, this is likely the last video I'll create. Rocket League has been my favorite game since I first downloaded it back in 2016, and 2020 was the first year I noticed that the order in which I bound my key bindings had an impact on my gameplay. I waited years for someone else to talk about this concept, and regardless of the outcome now, I am happy that I've tried. I appreciate those of you who have tuned into my content with an open mind, and who knows, maybe one day someone will figure out what's really going on here.